It's a time of year when a lot of folks are getting close to maxing out their 401k and trying to decide where to go next. Here's a few ideas. Hi, my name is Eric Blattner. I'm with Divvy Wealth Management, and thanks for watching. Before we get started, I'll just remind you to go over to divvywealth.com. That's DIVVI wealth.com. And if you like some of the work that we do, sign up for our blog there. And we generally send emails on a weekly basis with observations, market updates, things along those lines. Or you can go to YouTube and search at Divvy Wealth Management and subscribe to our channel there. So with that said, let's talk about 401ks and specifically where to go after you have reached a 401k limit. So there are rules in place in terms of how much individual employees can defer from their paycheck into their 401k plan. As of 2023, that limit for people age under 50 is $22,500. And for those that are 50 and older, the limit is $30,000 per year. Generally, those numbers are adjusted up over time to keep pace with inflation, but that's where they stand today. So, depending on your level of income and how much of your salary you are choosing to defer on a biweekly or monthly basis, or however often you get paid, you could be getting to the point of the year when you're reaching that limit. It's pretty common in the fall. Folks who are able to max out their 401k when they start to reach that limit. So, if you're interested in understanding when that's likely to happen for you, we've got a couple of tables here that can help fill in that gap. This first table is for those that are under the age of 50, and you first find your income or the number that's closest to your income along that top row. And then if you look along the vertical, you can see different contribution percentages. So if you follow those two data points to where they meet, you can see which month of the year you will reach that deferral limit. Now, we're recording this in September, so any month, September or earlier, is going to be shaded green. And then on this next chart, it'll be shaded brown. This chart or this table is for those individuals who are age 50 and older. Again, your deferral limit is $30,000. So again, a lot of people are reaching their contribution limits, or there's other folks who may only choose to defer up to a company match. And so, regardless of how you're getting to this question, a lot of folks are forced to answer the question after the 401k, do I want to keep saving? And if the answer is yes, where and how? So the point of today is to really try to address a couple of those options, specifically through the lens of taxes, availability, like can you use this approach, and then flexibility. So with that said, let's start with the taxable brokerage account. And this, I think, is one of the most underappreciated tools by a lot of investors. And the main reason for that is that income earned or gains realized are taxed each and every year. So if you own a CD, if you own a bond and it pays a coupon or an interest payment, you're going to pay ordinary income tax on that this year. If you sell a stock at a gain, you will pay capital gain tax on it this year. Again, those are all other things being equal. So, it's probably not right for individuals who are active traders or who are owning investments that generate a lot of short-term gains or ordinary income. Short-term gains and ordinary income, those are taxed at your ordinary income tax rates, which, as a reminder, those are generally going to be the highest rates that you will pay. So from a taxability perspective, that's one thing to keep in mind. Now, I think they're underrated because I think there are other structures, there are other ways to use a taxable brokerage account to generate really strong long-term after-tax returns. One of those, I guess if we go back to the mid-90s, exchange traded funds or ETFs have been around since about that time. And they give the investor an extraordinary amount of control over when and how they pay tax. So if you want to own an index like the S&P 500, there's a variety of different ETFs from providers like Vanguard and Fidelity and State Street and many others that will allow you to own that basket of stocks in an ETF wrapper in a very tax efficient way. So for long-term investors, I think the taxable brokerage account can still be used to generate those types of returns that you'll find attractive over time. There's another concept called direct indexing or custom indexing. It comes by several different names. If you're interested in more on that topic, you can click up in the corner. We recorded another video, an overview of what direct indexing is, but it's a similar concept to the ETF, only it allows the investors to realize losses on an ongoing basis. That's one of the benefits, anyway. Um, and those losses can be used to offset gains in other parts of your portfolio. So it's a pretty powerful tool. So, from a taxation perspective, those are a couple things to keep in mind with brokerage accounts. Now, what about availability? Good news is these brokerage accounts are available to just about anyone. All you need is a legal source of funds and to answer a few questions when you're opening the account. And then flexibility. Again, one of the reasons I love brokerage accounts is they are um, extremely flexible. You can use the assets or the investments to fund really any goal that you have in mind. Do you need a new car? Do you need to put a roof on the house? Do you have a tuition bill to pay for the kids? All this stuff is fair game. And you can withdraw that money at any time without penalty. So it's your money. You have ultimate flexibility in terms of how to choose it. Again, the trade-off for all those benefits is that your earnings are going to be taxed each and every year that they're realized. So keep that in mind. But I think it's a great, great tool that a lot of folks should really consider as part of their overall plan. So that's the first choice. The second area, one of the more common areas, is the individual retirement account, or IRA. We're going to look at specifically the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. I know there are a few other IRAs out there, but these are two of the most common. So from the perspective of taxation, traditional IRAs can be funded in one of a couple different ways. The first is just an after-tax contribution that you're going to make to a traditional IRA. Now, based on your income levels, these may be deductible contributions. So we'll include a link down in the description that you can use, or it's over on the full post on our website, that will help you understand if your traditional IRA contribution is deductible. Roth IRA contributions, on the other hand, are not deductible. They are made with after-tax dollars. And the one thing they do share in common is that once the assets are in the IRA, whether that's traditional or Roth, the investments will grow tax deferred. So you won't owe tax each and every year. You will only owe tax, or if you owe tax, it will be upon at the point when you withdraw the funds. So let's look at traditional IRAs. Pardon me. Generally, there's going to be rules around when you can withdraw these funds. Traditional IRAs are typically going to be taxed as ordinary income on distributions. So again, ordinary income tax rates are among the highest that you will pay. So not an ideal scenario. Roth IRAs, on the other hand, again, if you meet a few pretty basic requirements, you'll have qualified Roth IRA distributions, and those distributions can be entirely tax free at retirement. So we'll include another little link to a flowchart on our website that can help you understand whether those distributions will be qualified. And there's plenty of good information on the IRS website as well. So it's important. Again, we're moving through this pretty quickly, and these aren't all the details. But from a taxation perspective, it's worth understanding the differences between traditional and Roth IRAs. Again, those main points with traditional is it could be tax deductible. The distributions are likely going to be taxed as ordinary income. And the last piece, which we haven't mentioned yet, at some point you're going to be required to take some of that money out of your IRA. So after it grows tax deferred for all those years, eventually the IRS is going to say, okay, now you have to start taking some distributions and pay tax on those distributions. So the Roth IRA sidesteps that last piece, which is a nice benefit. What about availability? So traditional and Roth IRAs are available to a lot of different individuals. Traditional IRAs in particular, just about anyone can have access to a traditional IRA as long as you have earned income. You can fund a traditional IRA, or if your spouse has earned income, you can fund an IRA. And there are limits in 2023 at $6,500 if you're under the age of 50, or $7,500 if you're over or 50 or older. And again, depending on the amount of income that you have, those contributions to the traditional IRA could be tax deductible. Roth IRAs, on the other hand, Since those dollars can be withdrawn completely tax-free, the IRS puts a limit in place. They don't want ultra high income families to be able to contribute directly to Roth IRAs. So again, there'll be a link in the description here that takes you to those details so you can see what those limits are. One caveat here, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago. Again, we'll link to another video here that kind of outlines a Roth conversion strategy, also known as a backdoor Roth IRA strategy. Just because you may not qualify for a Roth IRA, there may be other ways that you can take advantage of Roth conversions from a traditional IRA to a Roth IRA to still fund that tax-free bucket. So watch that video if you're interested, and it kind of walks through some of the details and explains what that process looks like. And then lastly, the flexibility. So IRAs, again, are pretty flexible vehicles. You can't own life insurance products. You can't own collectibles inside of IRAs. But outside of that, most common investments are going to be fair game. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, things of that nature can all be held in IRAs, really in any amount. So um, those are a few of the details for IRAs, traditional and Roth. Lastly, I want to spend a couple minutes on annuities. And annuities, I think, um, oftentimes get a bad rap. And sometimes that's for good reason, but not always. I think there's plenty of good annuity providers and annuity products that have solutions that make sense for the right types of clients. So, what are those circumstances? Again, let's talk about taxation. For high income individuals and families, in a lot of cases, deferring taxes until later in the future, when ideally income will be lower, ordinary income tax rates will be lower, it could make sense. And one of the primary benefits of annuity products is that those assets, once they're contributed, do grow tax deferred. So you get to avoid paying taxes in the current year on the growth on the income generated in those products. So that's one piece. Typically, if you are making withdrawals, you'll want to understand if you make a contribution of a certain amount and then there's also a growth, you'll have to understand what that ratio looks like. Some of your distributions could be considered a tax-free return of capital. Other parts of the distribution might be considered earnings or growth and be taxed at those ordinary income tax rates. The last caveat, if you own what's called a qualified annuity, all that means is you own the annuity inside of a retirement account, like an IRA. In those circumstances, all the dollars will be taxed as ordinary income upon distribution. Hopefully that makes sense. Next, pardon me, when you think about availability, annuities are available to just about anyone in any amount. There's a lot of varieties. I did a quick search in Morningstar Direct's database for just the variable annuity products, and there were over 3,000 different products that came back. So there's a ton of choice and a lot of different flavors. That does not even include some of the fixed annuities that are out there, or the indexed annuities. And I'm not going to go into a ton of the detail on the differences, but again, there's different flavors, different shapes and sizes of some of these annuities. From an availability standpoint, generally not a concern. Most folks are going to have access to annuity products if they make sense for you. And then lastly, flexibility. So this really depends on the contract, and the devil's in the details. So our suggestion would be to really pay close attention to the details of your annuity. Sometimes these products are sold with long tie-up periods, lockup periods, or if you try to take your money out within a certain length of time, there could be very hefty penalties. Generally, I would suggest avoiding those types of contracts. There are maybe other types of annuity contracts that are principally concerned with tax deferral. So the expense, the fees associated with that annuity might be really low. And they might have a wide variety of investment options, including low-cost passive options, as well as some reasonably priced active management options. I really just think in these situations, you have to do the work to understand what is included in the product that you're buying and making sure that you're getting value, because there will certainly be costs associated with it, and you want to understand exactly what you're paying and what you are receiving in return for those fees. So I think in a lot of situations, given some of the tax efficiency, some of the control that you have over when you want to realize timing, and ultimately the flexibility, there may be better options, but not always. So I do think, if nothing else, we wanted to highlight some of the pros and cons and things to think about, as we certainly run into these from a lot of clients on a regular basis. So hopefully this has been helpful. Again, I would remind you to go over to divvywealth.com, DIVVI wealth.com, and sign up for our blog there. And we would be happy to share some of these weekly insights and updates on a regular basis, or subscribe at YouTube. Search for at Divvy Wealth Management to receive videos as we post them. Of course, if you have questions, please reach out. We'd love to help. And thanks again for watching. Have a great day.